Here at Physio Matters, we think physio matters. Become a member today and access over 500 webinars, get free tickets to shows, and access new content instantly. Access at home, work, or on the train to make sure your CPD is on track. Physio-matters.com. More content than the all-you-can-eat buffet cart.
Hello and welcome to session 40 of YouMatter. Hello and welcome to session 40 of YouMatter. Can you believe it? 40 episodes over, 3.5 years presumably, if my maths is correct. It's been such a ride. It's been so much fun. I think I would still be doing YouMatter at 40 episodes. I'm not sure I thought about it, but if you'd asked me at the start, I'm not sure I would have been 100% sure I'd have got here so happily and still be enjoying recording episodes so much. Now, this one is a proper celebration. I have a very special guest on YouMatter this time, and it's not a clinician. It's somebody, however, very knowledgeable about the clinical world and about clinicians, because it is my husband, Ian Turner. Some of you are sort of aware of Ian because I often share he's a really good photographer, and I often share beautiful pictures that he's taken, often of trees, because that's what he's into. He's a tree consultant. And I know some of you even follow Turner's Trees on Instagram, or Turner's Stress, as one of my clients calls it. I think that's a separate Instagram account that Ian keeps private from me. Anyway, a few of you have submitted questions, and I promise you I have included those towards the end of the podcast, so stay tuned. Enjoy listening to Ian and his reflections on what it's like to not only be married to a physio, but in fact to be the son and the son-in-law of a physio. Poor man. Sit back, enjoy the show, and I'll be back with you at the end. So I said session 40 like that because it does feel like quite a milestone. It's not 40 years of YouMatter, or it might feel like that to some of you, but it's the 40th episode, which I thought was significant. I don't know why it's more significant than the 10th, the 20th, or the 30th, but we make a big thing of our 40th birthdays, don't we? So I thought I would make a celebration of YouMatter's 40th birthday. And what I've decided to do as a bit of a self-indulgence is to invite on a guest who I really do like. I always say I really like this guest, don't I? It's my friend. I met them such and such time ago, blah, 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 blah. But this guest today is someone I really do like quite a lot, because it is Mr. Turner. Hello, Mr. Turner, Mr. Ian Turner.
Yes, hello, Mrs. Turner.
And there's lots of milestones actually, because it's YouMatter's 40th. It's Ian and my 20th wedding anniversary coming up at the end of this month. And Ian and I were both 50 in the last 12 months, me a little bit sooner than Ian. So there's loads of anniversaries going on. So this seems like a really nice time to have a slightly different episode of YouMatter. So Ian, thank you for agreeing. One of the many slightly harebrained things you've agreed to do with me in the last 20 years. It occurred to me, Ian, do you even know what YouMatter is?
It's a very good point. No, I don't think I could explain it if you, and it would be slightly embarrassing to explain it to the person who formed it and understands it best. But yeah.
Perhaps I should. Yeah, I probably should. Maybe that's the thing we should talk about. Perhaps I should tell you a little bit more about what I'm doing sometimes. But YouMatter is a podcast dedicated to the health and well-being of clinicians. And it might seem a bit random to invite Ian on, because Ian isn't a clinician. Ian is in fact a tree consultant. He was a tree surgeon when I met him, and there were lots of jokes at our wedding, weren't there, about limbs of various different sorts.
Absolutely. Well, actually, going back to when we first met, I was something slightly more boring, I suspect you might say, because I was not in the tree industry at all. I was actually in the finance industry. That's which right. Is, well, do you remember when we were introduced by another physio, by Matt? And yeah, he introduced me with some highfalutin description of, who I was, or at least what my job description was. And he said, well, you asked, what's the good about that then? And I think it set the scene pretty well. So in terms of, you didn't, suffer fools, I think, and I loved your sense of humour. So it was good to start there. But yes, we moved on to being in the tree industry. So
I should just interrupt and say that I had quite a few drinks by that point, and perhaps was even a little more bold than normal in questioning how important and special your financial. But do you think, getting straight into it, Ian, do you think that is, we should just state also, should we, that you have quite a lot of experience of physios. So Ian is qualified to be on this podcast really by virtue of the fact that not only has he been married to a physio for 20 years, he's also the son of a physio. He's also the son-in-law of a physio. And the other distant connection, which I'm not quite sure how it works out, is that my cousin is also a physio. So he's pretty well versed in physio nature, certainly female physio nature. So in me sort of, just calling out whether your job was actually that special or not very rudely in that moment. In your experience, is that a physio thing or is that a Joe thing?
I think it's a Joe thing to a certain degree, but I think you would see physios who are able to cut through in conversation and ask the right questions. I think because physios are very good, and I think all physios I've met have been very good conversationalists and do ask very posing questions because they're trying to get to the nub of an issue, or they're trying to understand something. And if they don't understand it, if they think somebody's blindsiding them, then they'll ask the right question, which is what I loved about you. I think that was kind of one of those things that physios do best, is get to where the heart of the issue. And so that is true of my mother, and I'd say that you always ask those awkward questions, and that's difficult as a son, I think, to hear those questions asked. But she was very good about it. So and I think that's being a son or husband of a physio, you do understand that that's why the questions are being asked, because actually not just accepting something.
And I remember, obviously I'm the daughter of a physio as well, and I relate to what you say. I can remember not being really allowed to skirt around issues. If my mum really wanted to know the answer to something in a very nice way, she would make sure she got the answer.
Usually very gentle, but kind of, but they're direct enough, and enough for a teenage boy to be slightly uncomfortable, I suspect. But it was, in terms of living with physios and around physios, it's a joy. The physios do understand people, and they understand how to talk. And I can be very taciturn sometimes, and I just love people around me who understand how to communicate. And I think it's really helped me over the years, being around, seeing the tricks of the trade. For downloads is what my mother says. She says that physios do downloading. They don't just communicate. It's such a rapid and a succinct way of communicating that it's considered the download in her mind, anyway.
Yeah. And do you think that's always a positive? I agree that you put physios in a room, the amount of information extracted from each other is pretty rapid, both ways. Do you think there are any downsides to the sort of the speed at which we tend to approach those kind of situations?
It can vary in its appropriateness, I think, because you are able to do it doesn't mean you should do it on every occasion, and it doesn't mean you're going to get it right on every occasion as well, with the right person. Because like I said, there's certain age groups and certain people who you need to go the roundabout route, and it's understanding that. Maybe I think physios are wise enough, or at least the majority of physios are wise enough to try something. They'll try one method of communicating and switch into another and switch into another. So, I know I'm talking generally here, so apologies to everybody who's listening, but actually I'm saying that you're all like this. No, you're not. But, there are sort of ways that you can communicate. And I'm pretty sure as people, as a people profession, you are very good at understanding how to switch between those things. So, it's not good to download necessarily in all occasions, but for many people, and given the amount of time that you spend with your patient, I think to given MSK in any NHS particularly, the speed at which you have to kind of treat patients, you do need to get to the nub of the issue. So yeah, it's appropriate sometimes not, but I think we jokingly call it downloads. Doesn't mean we're doing it all the time, but we're doing it quite a lot.
Yeah, and I know, I mean, you said just now you're taciturn, which I totally don't agree with at all. I'd say, you're quieter when you first meet people, and you probably do more, if you and I go to an event or a party or something, you spend more time sitting back observing, don't you? It's almost like I go in first line, and you're more of a slow burn. But I hope you agree that we complemented each other over the years, and I've certainly really appreciated. Just to give everyone an insight, so many times I get feedback that I'm calm and in control, and everything seems really sort of serene and settled. Honestly, Owen, I need you to know that this man on the screen with me is probably much more the reason for that than my actual nature. And Ian, I really appreciate how well you listen. So I know I can come in, for example, and I've had something go on at work, and I just do a rapid this has happened download. And your slightly different approach is really good at settling me down and sometimes making me go around the houses a little bit more and see things a different way. And I have learned a lot from your style of communication, which is very different to my natural one.
No, having heard, that I'd say that it is true that you like sharing the information that you've had, and I think that's such a beautiful thing. I do love listening to your kind of how your day's been, and I don't have to sort of extract it from you, which is better for me, because I do like seeing how you're going to be for the evening, really, in a way. Like many couples, I'm sure we just want to know something about how the other's been doing, and how tired or otherwise, to see how we might fit around that. And that's a great thing. And you're not you don't splurge in any bad way. And I do. And but we're all a bit swan-like, aren't we? I think we all try and don't want people to see those legs paddling away underneath. And I don't think you're that disorganized. You're very much. I think we provide structure to each other, which is in different ways. That's a complementary thing, so that you provide different things at different times. And if we both came home and had to sort of rant about work simultaneously, that probably wouldn't work. But I'm still thinking about it, because I still don't know whether it's bad or good, because I'm still in review mode. So maybe that's why it sort of makes it more compatible, because our communication styles do work around each other. Like you say, you go into a party, you love engaging, and you call it jazz hands, but I think
my rude friends call it jazz hands.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, your rude friends do. Yeah, but I don't think it is at all. I think it's just that welcoming, overcoming the barriers, something that you have to do all day, every day, with your clients or with people online or whatever. It's amazing how much energy it takes to lift people. You have to kind of literally lift people to get them to come out of their shells, or to kind of get the best out of them. And I think that's what you're brilliant at. You do get the best of people, and me particularly, because you do work hard at it. It's high energy stuff, but it's really good.
Well, actually, I mean, that's a really important point, and it's something I end up talking about with I should say, actually, we're saying physio a lot because all the people Ian is related to are physios, but not everyone listening to this is a physio. Other clinicians hope this conversation is just as relevant. In my head, it is. But Ian, you're absolutely right that the majority of these clinical professions do involve a lot of energy output, and in coaching I spend quite a lot of time trying to support people in managing how much energy is required to go and be out there all day, and we often joke on clinician forums that our families get the worst of us because of that. Knowing you're too polite to actually say whether that's true on your behalf, so you can answer on behalf of our children or yourself as a child if you like, but maybe just in basic terms of whether or not you actually get your injuries treated, or you get hurt, or the kids get hurt to the same degree that our patients would. What do you think about the maybe the observation that people in healthcare professionals give so much at work that actually when they come home, the people closest to them don't get the best of all that?
I think that there's something in that. I don't think it's what you think it is. I think that under the surface there's another point. It's about the time of the day when you come back, how exhausted you are and how you need to talk about stuff, as we just said, but it's then what lies beneath the surface. Now, I'm going to give you a story, I suppose, of my parents, because my dad obviously did feel like he didn't get treated that much, but I don't believe that's true. I think that he did get treated, and I think the sort of things that he got was a lot of great advice and great knowledge around the body, the human, the holistic thing that is a human being. It's all of these different things that are going on, food and exercise and stuff. I'm pretty sure that we'd come as partners to physios to possibly take it for granted. Now, I don't want to get into the smug zone of kind of saying, oh, well, I got treatments, this, that, and the other. But, as a tree surgeon, you do get injured a bit. And quite a few times I've come back and Joe has understood the need to treat me. So, and Joe, I'm really, really grateful for that. And I feel like perhaps what I'm meaning below the surface in terms of what the story is below the surface is that the physios themselves guilt themselves about whether or not they're doing best by their family, because they're coming home exhausted and they don't want to go again into treatment mode. Although I have seen you switch into treatment mode when you come home. You come home and go and see me walking down the corridor with my head, like literally my back at one angle. That doesn't look, very comfortable, and you've been able to just switch into treatment mode. And so I think perhaps beneath the surface here is the fact that physio, sort of kick themselves for not doing things as they would at work, at home. And I think that's wrong, that you should do, because when I come home, like many other professionals in particular fields, like I think this is a bit of a urban myth probably, but plumbers' houses, all the plumbing's rubbish, and all the builders have rubbish houses, and it's that kind of thing where when you get home, it's the last thing you want to do is do your job. But at the end of the day, I think most physios do come home and they do still provide something of a structure, a health, environment that's healthy, and possibly not just food, but physically. So I think stop beating yourselves up for one, because I'm sure you do more than you realise. And I mean, the sort of things I mean is you understand medicine, you understand the people in medicine, you understand the networks around that, and all the physios I've known have always been able to get treatments and people treated much quicker because they know the system. So that in itself is a physio benefit. Whether or not you get your hands on or hands off somebody, you are benefiting your family. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of this kind of maybe a myth making around I wasn't the best I could be at home. Don't go there. It's not worth it. Just step back.
I think that's a really helpful point, and you've touched on another thing that comes up almost routinely, certainly when I'm coaching physios and when I'm talking to them, this idea of a perfectionist tendency amongst the profession. Not just perfectionism, overachieving, striving, that kind of always could do better personality. And you've alluded to it a little bit there, and I agree with you that we have a tendency to want to do the best in absolutely every arena of our lives. But, are we kidding ourselves in our thought that that is particularly prevalent in, let's not say physio, but in healthcare. You're obviously in another industry, and well, you've experienced two other industries. Do you think we're kidding ourselves that those things are more prevalent in healthcare or not?
I think it's great because to talk about this now, because just happened to, as you know, Joe, we had one of somebody I know who came around and stayed with us, and actually has trained in physio, but is now in my industry. And we were able to compare notes. Now, I think there's a lot more similarity between the industry I'm in now, which is the charitable sector, and the physio and healthcare sector, because it's about people giving more of themselves than in any other, sector, because of that passion and belief in what you're doing, and absolutely, it's almost like a visceral need to help others. Where that comes from, I don't know, or no, I probably know, but I don't want to speculate too much. But I think it comes from people's deeper desires that may be sourced in early years, or or something that is just a passion that they can't explain, and so therefore they're likely to give 24/7 in all aspects of their lives, and that's why they're more likely to burn out or to give too much at the wrong times. Now, what we can do with that, I don't know. I think we do. Certainly, the charity sector is like that for the reasons that, as you can imagine, that people go to charities not to be paid well, but to do the job. But my other part of my head, in terms of in the tree world, we also don't get paid well. But again, it's people like arborists who risk their lives every day to prune trees well are not well paid, and they're not in the charitable sector either. But so what does that say about the person that's doing it? It says that they are somebody who's just so desperate to do it that they will do it for less than they're actually worth. But if they were to be told that they were worth more, if they were given the support and the validation that they should be given, if we were to value things properly and value people properly, I think we possibly would overcome that barrier. But it's a bigger story.
Yeah, and I'm just, as you're talking, actually, I'm just thinking that we possibly make unfair assumptions the other way. So when you see someone in an industry, a caring industry or charitable, just to clarify so people understand what you mean, you used to work in sort of the tree, the arborist industry, and you're still a tree man, but Ian now works for an ecology organisation, the Tree Council, and there's this kind of charitable ethos to that. So that's where he's drawing the comparisons. But Ian, the other way, as much as you might look at someone with jobs that are less well paid, but there's a clear altruistic nature to them, and we go, oh, well, they're obviously doing that not for the money because they care. And then we tie ourselves up in all sorts of knots about, oh, well, if you then start to earn money, does that mean you don't care? And the same way, you look at someone being paid what we would consider a huge hourly rate, I don't know, 500 quid an hour or something, and we just naturally make the assumption that they're in that job for the money, not because they love it. And conflating those two things when you look at it like that is really silly, isn't it? It's like the two things are directly related to each other, where in actual fact they are not. They're two entirely different concepts, and it's perfectly possible that you could be paid a load and really want to do your job for the good that your job does, and you could be paid nothing and hate your job.
It's really difficult to argue against that system as well, because you sound like you're that you are justifying other people earning more money, and that whenever you try and argue against the reductive kind of, oh, well, if you get paid a lot then you don't, yes, you are doing it for the money, and it's got nowhere good to go, is it? And then I think it is a British culture thing. It would be great to change that, but on the other hand, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I do like British culture in the sense that it doesn't overvalue money in that space, that it values passion, or at least talent and passion. And we've got to value talent and passion more. I think we're sort of getting there. I mean, certainly in arborist terms, in my industry, we do have people who are exceptional, and they are celebrated as exceptional, and they can do more and get more money, but they still are up against it. They're still, people who are not paid anywhere near enough. And for the most part, I think they don't really have families or commitments other than just their job. So that, I think that indicates the sort of level of commitment that's required to get to that prominence and that sort of level of pay and importance. So I think there is a problem with work-life balance all round in our industry, particularly. I don't know whether it's true of physio. I think perhaps there is a work-life balance issue, in a different way, that actually it pursues you home. You can't switch off when you get home. And another way of expressing that, or the way that I kind of see physios going, is that they feel like you start off in the NHS and you want to do the best for, altruistically, as you quite rightly said, and then you sort of feel like there's, well, where do I go from here? And it feels like if you go off into private physio, that somehow that is seen as a dark side to the industry. Now, I also would say that that's true in tree work as well, that you start off as an ARB, as a tree person doing tree work. You start off working for a company probably, and then you go out alone, and then you sort of progress, possibly even to do qualifications. And if you do qualifications, you might become a consultant. And some consultants in our sector will go off and work for, big corporates doing sort of whatever the corporates do, or developers. And that's seen as a dark side potentially, because some of them maybe have to be more pragmatic in the way that they do their work. But so it's a bit of a snobbery thing there that maybe mirrors a little bit of what happens for physios progressing through healthcare. I don't know. But, there is that sense that there's a dichotomy. You split off, you got one segment of people who stay true to, public side of things, and there are people who go off to do the private side. And that's particularly strong, I think, in the UK. Not sure how it is abroad, but it seems striking in the UK, because not much room is given to physios if they want to do something a little bit different, I think. I think that's what I would call it. I would say anything outside the NHS is sort of maybe not doing what the physio who is doing it set out to do. There's not enough diversity of roles, possibly, or diversity or acceptance of that diversity of people within physio. So physio can mean so much to so many different people. I mean, I'm saying this from the outside. I'm not telling you that you should do it a particular way, but having seen how you've developed, Joe, you've developed from being that NHS physio and then gone to work in the private sector, and that's led to kind of lots of opportunities to grow in different ways. And it seems that that's something that should be more available broadly through physio, that physios can express themselves in different ways, because you are dealing, as we started this conversation, you deal with communication, you deal with the person, the body, the physical being, but more than anything, you're dealing with that emotional, mental side of people's lives, and trying to integrate all of those things to treat that person in front of you. It does take its toll, and as over time you learn that actually you need to do it differently.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to be married to you and to be the business partner of Matt, and I think both of you, I'd say I'm really lucky, because I think both of you fully understand that perhaps me in a almost extreme way, almost has a pathological dislike of doing the same thing really more than one day a week, or the same thing for any lengthy period in my career. And you're absolutely right that I always feel slightly embarrassed that my decision to leave the NHS was a bit of a non-decision. It wasn't some sort of wasn't driven by some really strong thought process. It might have been that I was quite young when I did it, but you're right. When I look at the ways I've been able to morph my career, travel with it, focus on different aspects of it, go into management, train as a coach. I probably have an unusual thirst for variety and self-expression, but I do pretty much need personally to be in the private sector to allow that. And I'm really grateful to you and to Matt for kind of just accepting really that's who you're dealing with. Because if there was lots of resistance to that, I know that I would feel very constrained and probably become deeply frustrated and difficult to live with if those wings were clipped as such.
Yeah, I think we've seen it with our mothers though, because your mother obviously being physio and mine being a physio, we've seen the sausage machine in action, where it's just treatment after treatment after treatment, and there's nothing wrong with that, because essentially when we go to work, we work in a machine. We work in that only can function well when it is like that, where it can have that function where it just sees as many people as possible to kind of get them as well as possible in a sort of pragmatic way. But I think that, yes, that's part of the problem though. I think that people do feel the need, and we are all trying to get more and more emotionally intelligent, aren't we, with time and more understanding of our, the way that we work has an impact on our lives. There are people who want to go and just be at work and just bang through, lots of work, whether that's, 45-minute consultations or half-an-hour consultations or whatever, right through the day, and then get to the end of the day and go, right, thank you, dust off their hands, go home, and switch off. But others do need that width, and I think that because people are so diverse in their kind of needs and their priorities in their life, that work, I mean, I'm not just talking about physio here, I'm talking about all work needs to be more flexible and allow for more creativity and allow more space for, people to use emotion or to be part, to express themselves. Now, you and I are particular in our need to express ourselves because we both have a creative side and we want to use it. It doesn't mean we shouldn't, try and change the workplace. And we are celebrating, our 50th year. It is a good time to start thinking that we might want to lead our sectors or lead a change in the way that we do things. And that's particularly what I want to do, to mentor others, to tell them and accept them as who they are, not to shape them into little machines that do work, but actually to shape them into thinking individuals who can do work creatively, who can adapt and who can be comfortable in themselves and know that they can go home in the evening and still feel that they've expressed themselves in their work and have enough energy for home. That's not unreasonable, is it?
No, and that's one of the things you do best in. And over the years I've seen Ian, I obviously don't have direct experience of him at work, but I've seen him do things like teach children and older people actually to climb trees. And Ian has this amazing presence, very quiet, patient presence that just makes people feel really safe in often quite challenging circumstances.
Treacherous.
Yes. And probably your pinnacle is having 70-year-olds up a massive oak tree in Italy, wasn't it, when we were doing a retreat together? But I mean, I was thinking, well, I know you thought about it. You could have been a health professional, and in many ways you have that real deep ability to listen really deeply and thoroughly and make people feel safe, which if that skill set was in a clinician's world, then it would be highly appropriate. Would you ever want to go in? That's an interesting question. Having lived alongside so many healthcare professionals, would you want to be a healthcare professional?
I did when I was very young. I actually thought I'd love to be a doctor. And I would have loved to have been part of it, but the more I saw, the more I realised that it took a particular skill set, which I didn't believe I had at that stage, and also academically slightly lesser expectations, possibly than I don't think I was ever going to be a doctor, but there was a possibility of being potentially into a caring profession of some sort. I think that caring professions in themselves, it is something I wanted to be caring, but I also wanted something else, and I wanted to find a way that I could impart knowledge and actually encourage people in ways that they didn't realize, to realize their potential. But I didn't want to be a teacher either. So that's a very tiny and high window to get your sort of self through. So I changed my mind many times, and it was interesting talking to that person who had trained as a physio and then subsequently gone into the tree world, because there were similarities there, but I felt that it was a misdirection for me. I needed nature and I needed more time. And I realized that by being in healthcare, all my time would be boxed. That all time is accounted for and boxed in by a requirement to meet certain targets and to find a way to do it that doesn't suit the individual. And I am pretty awful or very good at, depends on your perspective, time management with people, because I feel when there's a strand of something that we're unpicking or that we're getting into, I'd happily spend days doing that, or at least hours. And I feel that we don't give people time, and that includes the clinicians. The clinicians don't have the time, and the individuals who are being cared for haven't been given the time. And we all know time is money and all that kind of stuff, but we're living very long lives now, some shorter than others because people haven't given them the time, or they don't give themselves the time. And so that was the biggest constraint. So I felt that when I was in nature and when I'm with people in nature, that I can give them that time, that I can ostensibly be doing one thing with them but actually doing another. So go climbing, yeah, but we're going to talk about other stuff. Things are going to come up as we're talking, certain anxieties, or or maybe even by doing the climbing, we're overcoming something with them. So I kind of think that I'd still get my therapeutic kick from taking people into nature.
I think you're speaking to the frustrations of so many physios, certainly me. If we were granted, a lot of people think we are the lucky ones in healthcare, that we get longer than quite a lot of other professions, certainly longer than doctors. But if we were granted even more time with patients, and for so many of us the ability to be out in nature as well, and some of those, there are lots of health projects involving taking people out walking, and we're realizing the added benefits of combating loneliness and allowing conversation, going back to what you and I were saying at the start, allowing conversation to follow its natural path rather than maybe the way we are forced to force it in a short consultation.
Yeah, we're never really in a flow state, are we, when we're talking to doctors? We're talking to doctors, we're trying to be succinct in our communication when we're trying to get care, never mind actually being carers, trying to get that information from people. And then they go off, people trying to get care go off to Google to find out, well, how do I say things right so that the doctor will take me seriously? And then they end up with some freaky kind of website that's going to tell them all sorts of horrifying things about what. And then, of course, they come in to the doctor feeling like they're a neurotic or acting like a neurotic. And I think the same for physios, because we're given so little time, we are communicating badly. We're either going to the extremes or we're underplaying, as is the English way to kind of underplay something that's truly dramatic. Oh, my arm fell off. You go, oh, it's, like it's only a flesh wound kind of thing.
You've hit on a really important point. And even I do that, going to the doctor. You're right. You pre-think it, and then because you're aware of this tiny window of time, you find yourself communicating in a way which is weird even to yourself. And then the whole interaction is weird. I've never really thought of that. And what a barrier to effective communication that is, where you're both being weird to start with.
It is a weird scenario, and it's not because it's not natural. People, I mean, we talk it with white coat hypertension, isn't it? The fact that when people go to get their blood pressure taken, that they become stressed, therefore their blood pressure is higher. There's what better message about therapeutic spaces? And it's like, it is stressful. Maybe we need to go and take people into nature and take the blood pressure. There's some arguments there that the whole system could potentially do itself some favors, but I'm not going to say there's any solutions that I've got, but I do feel like time is one of those solutions. Time for yourself, time for the patient, and that like you say, walking therapy. I think I know when I walk my friends, we talk more than if we're sitting in a pub, because you'll just end up drinking more because you're trying to lower the barriers. But when you're walking, the barriers come down anyway, and you can sort of find a natural pace for your own thoughts. So yeah, I do remember, and this is something from childhood, that my grandfather died of a heart attack, and he had other mental health issues. So what had happened to him was, or at least we speculated that actually the doctors had stopped listening to him and stopped taking his issues seriously because of the overlying mental health issues. So if you take that into account, how are we ever going to extract anything from anybody at the pace that we go at or have to go at? And as much as I do really love what physios do in terms of their ability to communicate, I think that is a massive stress on you as physios and clinicians, to constantly refine your communication style to kind of try and extract that. And that's what's exhausting, is onto the next one, onto the next one. And it just, at some point, we still need to get through the numbers, but the quality outcomes don't come from quick interactions. Quality outcomes come from slower, more considered interactions, and maybe that's what we need to be changing.
I know I get some of my greatest fulfillment and probably results from a group of elderly people. Actually, just out of interest, we calculated their average age a few weeks ago, and it's 78.6 in this little exercise group that I do on a Monday. And I see them every week. I've been seeing some of them every week for years. And I think the regularity with which I see them just allows me to understand the nuances of what they're really struggling with. And actually there's some benefit in that group work, because they learn to speak to each other and they remember little things about each other. And even when we're just practicing getting down on the floor and back up again, one of them will say, "Oh, do you remember you found it much easier to have that cushion under your knee," and things like that. And I think, I particularly with that age group, in a constrained period of time, where there's maybe quite a big gap between when I see them, the ability to get that level of information just wouldn't be there. Ian, you and I are talking just the day after you shared with me actually that Guardian article that came out about the use of AI for almost like a triaging tool, really.
Yeah.
Whilst it's tempting to be horrified, and I don't want to get into don't want to draw you into a long discussion with that, because it's just all starting to kick off and develop in our world. But do you think, rather than seeing this, entirely as a bad thing, from what we've just said, if technology could be used to extract the important sort of factual information in an environment where somebody can do that in their own home and they're not in front of a doctor or physio feeling weird, and then the purpose of that is that it frees us up to do the more nuanced human relational stuff that most of us were born in, I can't think of the word, our characteristics make us ideal for that part of it. Do you think we should be looking more positively at that possibility?
Yeah, it's still a big question, but the AI potential is that it can. So people come at healthcare from different angles and for different reasons. They may have had something for years and years and years that it's just finally become intolerable, and other people have had it for 5 minutes and can't tolerate it. And the different parts of our lives, we more vulnerable to kind of going to healthcare, maybe for the wrong reasons or for different reasons. Maybe we're feeling anxious and we just pick out something that we need attention on, or maybe just need attention. Maybe we're lonely or whatever. I think there is something in the AI that can be very, very positive. I think there's some stuff that could be negative too. I think we've got to understand what the negatives could be. If it is just about the numbers, if it's about filtering and triaging, then of course it does give that possibility for certain mindsets and certain types of people that might work better than human beings, that they can type in their keywords and they can sort of find their route, rather than being intimidated by that, like say, white coat hypertension moment. They might find their way through and we might route them better. There is still a possibility that they may not. There might be people who can't express themselves in that way. I mean, we talk about neurodivergent people as being kind of different. They're not, they're just people. But, we have a huge range in terms of humans, of way of expressing ourselves. And AI, if it could be used wisely, it could accommodate all that diversity of expression and draw people through the system in a much more efficient way. And, is that for us to say that's better or worse? In some ways, I have seen clinicians who have been gatekeepers, and I think most clinicians are actually gatekeepers. They're gatekeepers for a wider system. And as I said about my grandfather, I'd say that he was gatekeeped, or like it stopped from getting, and he was stopped from getting treatment, or at least the clinician became too tired of possibly the neuroses or whatever to actually take it seriously. Now, would AI have done better in that case? Maybe, because maybe if it had all the information, but it is, AI is only as good as the information you put in there. So whilst I say AI may do better, it needs information, as does a human. But sometimes humans have bad days. Would the AI have bad days? And if we did replace the triaging by humans with AI, perhaps it would be more consistent and less under pressure. And maybe stats that came from it, maybe directions that came from it would be more honest, or at least, we would be able to, as long as it's programmed well. And of course, like all good systems and programs, are only as good as the programmer. So yes, I think AI has potential. I don't think it would necessarily remove that human contact. I think that, going back to our original point, I think it's about time. If triaging by AI allows the person to go to the right outcome, or the right person or route, perhaps more time could be given to that person, because we're not busy triaging. So, but I'm really wary of reductive arguments that AI will save us money. Sorry, it's not about saving money. It's about saving lives and making people's lives better. So the idea, and I don't want to swear at this moment, but the idea that somehow we always have to save money, that's just utter bleep. And then, and for me, that's
swearing in YouMatter. Some people can't the amount of times I swear on YouMatter.
Yeah, well, I don't want to kind of get into sort of a rant, but I feel like that's one area that I feel that we, in this country particularly, have gone in the last 30 or 40 years into money saving mode all the time. And then it's not about saving money. People have got, by saving money, by reducing everything to saving money, we have lost the humanity and the respect for individuals and for our society, and denied the presence or existence of society. And that is the kind of thing that destroys whole countries, and we need to stop doing it, and we need to start thinking how AI will build a much more human framework, a human context, how we can make it better by removing the downsides of humans and providing the upsides of humans, because we've got more money to spend on people and therefore more time to spend with people. So I think that is, if I have one message, that would be it, that you as clinicians need more time, and you need to be cared for, and you need to look after yourselves, because nobody else is able to do it, really, I think. But you need to find a way back to being humans and not being sausage machines.
Okay, this is the second time in 2 days I've heard that phrase, that clinicians need to find their way back to being human. And I love your statement that if we can find a way to use AI to enhance humanity rather than to reduce it, then that's actually a really good filter. I'm going to keep that in my mind when all these things are coming through and I'm trying to work out what I feel about it. to ask myself the question, okay, does this increase the capacity for humanity or does it reduce it? And I think it's a really good filter to be using.
So maybe we need an assessment. We need some way of assessing it, though, don't we? Because I think our way of assessing it is, does it save money?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not good enough. That's just not good enough. And it's the same with GDP, GNP, whatever you want to call it, or growth, or, they're all very poor, very unsubtle, ham-fisted ways of measuring the way that humans grow and the way that societies and countries grow. We need to remove these measures and put in better measures, and that will take us all to understand that actually there's a better way and that you can do it. We don't need to believe in these measures. We don't have to listen to pundits. We can listen to our own humanity and find better ways to do these things.
This conversation is a great example for people listening of the way you and I communicate. You can hear, I'm sure, everybody how Ian is brilliant at not letting me just throw out a soundbite and get away with it. He will actually go deeper and is a big thinker. Ian, however, sorry, I need to change the direction of this a little bit, because some people have been kind enough to submit some questions for you, and I want to make sure that I get those in. First one is from Katie. Do you know how lucky you are? Do you?
Do I? Yes. Well, hopefully.
I arrogantly assume that means, do you know how lucky you are being married to me? But
yeah, no, exactly. That's. I was assuming that. Yeah, I am very lucky. Yeah. No, I do. Maybe in times we all take things for granted, and me and everybody else. But I try not to. I try to be mindful of the amazing human being that I'm married to, and it is a real privilege to be able to have this level of sort of complementary kind of skill and emotion that we kind of raise each other up a bit. So yes, I do feel very lucky.
And it does go back, doesn't it, into that first, although we joke about that first conversation that started off with me being told your job and me very rudely asking you if that was important. The conversation that followed from there, I think, was a real revelation, wasn't it, from the start? I think we were both like, this person's actually prepared to have this conversation with me, and I've only just met them. And then we made that.
I'd love that. I mean, we sat in that pub for hours talking, and it didn't feel like that. So I think that says everything, doesn't it? That time can pass in much better ways with much better people, and you were that person. So that's how lucky I am. So
well, not to get too mushy, likewise. But just to bring a little bit of counterbalance to that, Siobhan's question is, how the hell do you put up with them?
I don't think it's kind of I don't think it's putting up with. I think it's kind of goes both ways. I understand that I can be a pain in the ass, so it's kind of we both have our moments. Let's put it that way, and it's fantastic, as I said, because I don't have to put up with anything really, because it makes, I don't know. I don't know whether I can say it makes me smile, but I do feel much happier knowing that you do the things that I am probably not so good at. And I think that's probably the things that she's talking about, is kind of like, oh my God, she's going out there doing stuff and, seemingly hyper, but you're not like that all the time. And you're like that at the right times. And you're emotionally intelligent enough to time it perfectly. So
maybe I'm like our lovely ex-Springer Spaniel, who I always used to defend by saying he was absolutely bonkers when he was out in public, but then he just slept in the house.
We're both like that. We're both Springer Spaniels. I just hide it all the time, going around with your tongue lolling out and ears flapping in the breeze. There is that.
Springer Spaniel.
Yeah, well, I have said this has been a description that's been used for me on various occasions. So yeah, I do understand. But yeah, we both suit that same profile. So that's why it's not annoying or difficult or anything like that.
And then final question from another Joe. Do you like trees more than people? Your family accepted? She felt that she needed to write.
No, I'd struggle to like trees more than people. I think that trees do represent something very other and different. Their times are so much longer than ours, and their lives so fixed in one location, whereas I've spent much more of a traveling life. I feel I feel great empathy to them and respect, but the idea of having any sort of more deeper relationship with trees than human beings would be a bit worrying.
When you were a tree surgeon, do you remember we used to have conversations? We used to joke about your marketing, didn't we? And how I think it was it that you used to talk about almost helping the trees manage their humans?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was a sense of people helping people just manage trees better. I suppose it's just it was about thinking how people understand trees, what they understand about trees, and and explaining why sometimes changes people's minds so dramatically that then go from saying I want to remove that tree to oh god I love that tree. And it's just about explanation. It's about also validating their opinion over the rest of society as well, that because obviously trees aren't always in the right place, but they can't move, so why don't we move our own mindset around to fit them in? We just need to create that space. And I suppose you were absolutely right, Joe, that we talked a lot about how trees represent something that is a characteristic we should take into consideration, which is we should provide space for things that maybe we find uncomfortable. That actually it's uncomfortable to have trees who've been there for so long and the rest of the world has moved around it, and everybody gets annoyed because it's in the way, in inverted commas, or changing our mindset to understand that actually there are things which are totally not just immovable but are part of us that we should respect, that there is a bit of us that is nature that shouldn't be moved and we shouldn't destroy or reduce, and to respect it perhaps we need to change rather than it. So it's called something like tree time, thinking about time in a different way, thinking about space in a different way, thinking about the space around you, that as we can move around and we understand space differently, that trees understand space as a thing that moves, and we think about the day as a blink of an eye, whereas for us a day is can be infinitely long if you're of a mind to make it so. Maybe we need to change more of ourselves back to where we were, to put ourselves back in touch with that inner tree where there's part of us that does stay still and present and rooted.
About 50 memes in what you've just said. That is why I married this man, because he comes out with things like that. And actually, you are half tree, aren't you? You're unusually wearing a blue or lilac shirt today, but the kids are always teasing him for dressing like a tree. I've got a green top on today, but he often has brown trousers and a green top.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I don't actually have sort of branches sticking out of my head, but I do have a green-brown combo, which makes me look like like any sort of generic sort of person who works outside.
So wrapping things up, we are approaching our 20th wedding anniversary. Hopefully we're, I don't know, at best halfway through. Hopefully there's another 20 years and maybe even another 50 years. With the optimistic hope that we're around our midway point, what are your hopes going forward for the Turners?
What's the hope? I guess it's that more slower, less anxious about kind of things, because we are part of that solution. So having an idea of how we're going to solve our own lives, in terms of making it more sustainable in both emotion and energy, and energy, I mean human energy as much as I mean kind of power in terms of electrical energy. I think bringing the family closer together is a cornerstone of everything that we're doing at the moment. Bringing the older generation closer to the younger generation, as we know that's one thing that our society has become bad at, is having intergenerational communication and being together in one space and knowing each other in an emotional sense, not in a hierarchical sense. That's a kind of an aspiration, it's a sort of anarchy aspiration, but the real aspiration is that we're just more free to explore our creativity, more free to define what it is that a job is, how we continue to earn our keep, but at the same time provide something to the world and to ourselves. And I suppose for our children, I feel the same, that they can define their futures by their skills, their talents, their passions. Their passions eventually, obviously, the talent is the thing that we're trying to get to at the moment, is trying to let them understand themselves. I mean, I know that's a cliche, know thyself, but there is that sense that if you know yourself, you're able to really get to what you're comfortable with, and to get away from that kind of expectation of, well, you're from this background, so therefore you'll do this, the pigeonhole trap that many of us do fall into. So that's the aspiration, I suppose, is that we break down some of those barriers and that we create space and time, as we've said, not necessarily tree time, but more time for each other and more time for everybody else.
And I'm definitely on board with that, and it fits with when I turned 50 at the end of last year. I remember having the sense that I'd spent much of those first 50 years driving and pushing and driving quite hard, and I felt like I was ready to not cruise. I'm sure you know me well enough to know that probably isn't going to be part of my nature, but to flow, or like you say, to create space that we can fill rather than almost like forcing space to appear.
I express it in quite a boring way, but I kind of think that it's about fun. There is just there's play. We're thinking about that 70-year-old climbing a tree. That's about play. It's about relearning who you are, what your body can do, and then your body being able to do more because it's been pushed slightly, but pushing people in comfortable ways that allows them to really flourish in a way that they couldn't have done before. I mean, we're talking about fun and play. We never did get round to talking about, and we should mention, the wax baths, because that kind of thing.
The wax baths, yeah. Go on.
Well, that's the one thing. We did end up talking about this, I think, on the first time that we met, that your mum's a physio, mine's a physio, and so do you remember when? And when we were kids, we obviously ended up going into the physio departments because, what else do you do with children, in the generation?
Any physio under 13 will wonder what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I know. Well, I'm sure that I don't know really what on earth it was doing there.
I don't think we really knew. It's just fun.
So it's just basically heated wax in a kind of something that's almost as bigger than a toaster. I can't really remember the size, because the relative size of it, but something that contained hot wax. That you could, as a child, it's very fascinating. It's nice and warm, and you can put your hand in it, and you come out with your hand covered in wax. I mean, what is there not to like?
So we're going to be buying a wax bath because that's one of the most fun things to go with our cold tub.
Yeah, the cold tub, the tepid tub.
So
yes,
let's just finish up with an analysis of whether Will was right last night. Do you want to tell the story of our conversation with Will when he realised you were going to be on my podcast last night?
No, you feel free. I'm going to put it back on you.
Our eldest, Will, he's nearly 20. He was talking to us last night and just asking what we were up to, as in today. And I said, "Oh, Dad's going to be on my podcast." And he said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, if Dad's really boring." And I said, "Oh, well, we'll just upgrade him with AI."
Yeah, that's true.
So only a child could deliver that level of honesty. But I'd like to reassure you, Ian, that I'll be using this version, not the AI upgraded version.
I wouldn't blame you. Well, maybe don't mind a visual upgrade. That would be great.
Yeah, for myself as well. No, raw and as it is.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Ian, for being a good sport and agreeing to come on my podcast.
Thank you. It was very kind of you to invite me on. Very brave. You never know what I might say.
This is true. No, I paid you enough money beforehand. It's fine.
Yeah,
We've signed the contract. All right. Well, I'll see you again for the 80th episode, Ian.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. Lovely to see you. Thanks for the lovely questions as well.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Take care. So don't believe a word of that. Ian's a real nightmare. He doesn't listen to me. He's very domineering, quite patriarchal, just bosses me around quite a lot. I just thought it was probably worth saying that in case you got the impression that he was a really caring, patient, saintly man, and in fact the secret of the success of Jo Turner and most of her projects. No, I'm joking. It was great to be able to showcase Ian, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I hope you enjoyed his reflections on physio and healthcare from the outside, I guess. It's certainly it's always helpful for me to hear his take on things, because we tend to talk to each other a lot, don't we, as clinicians? And I think sometimes it becomes a bit of an echo chamber. So I hope it was enjoyable and interesting to you to hear Ian's reflections on healthcare from the outside. So it feels like 40 episodes gone, and on to the next era. So tell me, what do you want in the next era of YouMatter? Who would you like me to be talking to, and what would you like me to be talking about? You can let me know on any of my platforms. You can contact me on LinkedIn under Jo Turner. You can contact me on X, mehub_Jo, and I also have a Facebook group, mehub, MEHUB. So follow me on any of those platforms. Contact me privately, message me, let me know what you want to hear about. And if you would like to come on as a guest, if there's something you want to talk about, then equally send me a message. Let's make this next era of YouMatter really count. And let's make you count. If you are a busy clinician, or if you're married to a busy clinician who is giving themselves in all arenas, and as Ian says, trying to be perfect in all of them, then maybe have a conversation with them tonight. I'm talking to the partners and the spouses here. Maybe remind them to take a breath and to remember that it's okay to take time for themselves, because they do matter. And you, clinicians, you absolutely do matter.
Tired of stick people drawings stinking up your exercise programs? Do you wish you had an exercise prescription software that had hundreds of pictures, videos, fully customizable text, inbuilt virtual consultation software, and you could send it by email or WhatsApp? If that software existed, I bet you'd want a 3-month free trial, wouldn't you? Just go to rehabmypatient.com/PhysioMatters now.